At my age, I know that I'm supposed to be in a rocking chair drawing my Social Security and reminiscing about the good old days that weren't so good. Memories begin at an old home in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I grew up there in what a recent book has called the good years, the years of this century before 1914. Something happened. The world went into delirium tremens then, otherwise known as progress. And I remember that one of the outstanding events of that period was the sinking of the Titanic. And Mordecai Ham used to say that God was trying to teach us a lesson in that, but we didn't learn it. And I think he had a point. What an impression it made on my heart and mind, even as a small boy. It was an unsinkable ship, proclaimed as a ship that couldn't be sunk. One of the workmen cut on the side of it, down in the hull somewhere, even God can't sink this boat. And all it took was a hunk of ice out in the Atlantic Ocean. Unsinkable, and the only thing it ever did was sink. On the first trip. As if God were trying to say, you're not as smart as you think you are. But after it was all over, in the Kennard offices in New York, there were only two lists, lost and saved. And it's that way in life. We have all classes, rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, but one day it won't matter. The only thing will matter is which list has your name on it. I came to Jesus as a boy, about 10 years of age. I didn't know much about theology. I didn't understand all about the plan of salvation. If my little brain could take it in, there wouldn't be much to it. But I don't understand all about electricity, but I'm not going to sit around in the dark till I do. And so I came to the Lord with such faith as I had, and He received me. I never knew the day I didn't feel called to preach. I don't know how you work that out theologically, but that's your problem. At 12 years of age, I stood in Old Corinth Baptist Church and asked them to license me to preach the gospel. I didn't know much. I was a typical country boy. I not only didn't know anything, well, I didn't even suspect anything. And in those days when God called a man to preach, He didn't get out pad and pencil and start figuring on what income bracket let's put me in. What'll be the fringe benefits? And will I be appreciated for what I'm worth, which wouldn't call for much appreciation anyhow. A call to preach settled it. Here am I, Lord, send me. Either you did or you didn't. I gave my first message away from home in the little town of Hickory, North Carolina. They asked me to come over to the First Baptist Church on a Wednesday night and talk at prayer meeting. We asked a farmer to take us in his old Ford. There weren't many Fords then. And the ones that were quite a curiosity. Bulb horn, 30 horsepower, and 20 of them dead part of the time. We made our way over there, and I've never been to a place that looked any bigger than Hickory did when we got there that night. And I looked down the aisle of the church, it looked like a mile to the pulpit. Father had come with me, and we weren't used to town. He sat back there and prayed for me, and I went down to the front. They put me in a chair, and I stood there with the pastor of the church on one side and the state evangelist on the other, and I did the best I could. And I've tried to do that to the glory of God for these 60-odd years since. And that's all God ever asked of you, to be faithful. I started out without any Social Security, without any financial security, but thank God I had eternal security. And the happiest man in the world is a young Christian before he's met too many Bible scholars. Old Billy Sunday used to say, they tell me I rub the fur the wrong way. I don't. Let the cat turn around. My first pastorate was a country church. And after World War I, new ideas were going around over the country. I was impressed with the new approach. And I got it in my little head that the gospel needed to be adapted to the modern mind, which is not very modern, not much mind. But the fire went out of my bones. I gave up my church and went back to the old home in the hills. Had nowhere to preach. And my father was quite disappointed. And people asked whatever became of the boy preacher. And then one day I ran across a poem. I couldn't locate it for years, but 2 lines in it stayed with me. How sad will be the days in store when voice and vision come no more. I couldn't get away from that. My voice as a preacher had grown faint, and the vision had faded. But God had called me, and He knew my frame and remembered that I was dust. And He used several influences to wake me up. And God made it clear to me, if you will dismiss these newfangled notions and go back and preach the plain gospel of your boyhood years, I'll make a way for you. And so I did, and He did. He cleared the track. But the first thing I had to do was go back to that church and preach it straight for 3 years. I had got into the novelty shop, and I needed to get back to the antique shop. And they say, well, he told us nothing new. I consider that a compliment. The sun's old-fashioned, but without it you grope in the dark. The air's old-fashioned, but without it you gasp and die. Water's old-fashioned, without it you go mad. Don't you ever get excited just because we've split the atom and gone to the moon. Nothing important has changed. Don't ever forget that. Sin's just as black as ever, and hell's just as hot. Judgment's just as certain, eternity's just as long. Salvation's just as free. If we just make it contemporary today and live and preach as though Jesus died yesterday and rose this morning and might come back tonight, turn this world upside down. The great awakening in Nineveh didn't start with Nineveh. It started with a runaway preacher by the name of Jonah. Many a revival is waiting to begin, not in a place, but in a preacher.